Hey, what's your problem? You have business problems? We have business solutions. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Life is a fight. In business, every day is a fight.
So true.
So, hey, what's your problem?
As always, thank you, John David Wells, the big voice guy, for the show. Rumor has it he's looking around, and possibility he may be on the airwaves here in the state. You never know. Had a conversation with him last week, so stay tuned on that news front. This is the What's Your Problem podcast, where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals about the one thing, it's always something, that kind of resides in the back of your mind that keeps us up as business owners and professionals. It's one of those things that when you realize it's always something, life just kind of gets easier because you're not freaking out so much. It's just always going to be something. Just accept it, big or small. This is a video and audio podcast. Check us out at whatsyourproblempodcast.com. And as I've been vehemently relaying to you, 10,000 average downloads per episode is what we're going for. So if you could help us out, share the podcast, give it a rating, tell us who your favorite episode was, and share it with the world. 10,000 downloads, that's what we're shooting for. whatsyourproblempodcast.com. I am your host, Jim McCarthy with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com, and today we have Mr. Jim Ryan, another BNIer. He's in the Williamson County, the Wilco chapter. Sir, how are you?
I'm just fine, thank you.
Right on, man. And Jim's a motivational speaker, but he's got a lot of career that he's lived through. We're going to get into all of that. But of course, what do we do to start things off? It's always the dad joke challenge. Mr. Edward Fox, who Jim and I both know from BNI. If you ever meet Ed, make sure that you tell him that he missed his calling to be a pitchman, because he certainly could be one. He's amazing at that. He is the one sponsoring the Dad Joke Challenge because he is also the author of some of the most grown-tastic dad joke books out there. You can find them on Amazon. And he's also the head of Trade Bank Nashville. Especially in an economy like this where things they seem a little tight lately. You know, interest rates are not exactly desirable. Maybe you have some inventory or services that you could be doing something with your time. You might as well do it for trade. And it's a nice way to kind of unload some inventory that's just not being sold, or some of your services. Definitely worth checking out. Sometimes barter is smarter, as Mr. Ed says. So, Jim, this is the way it works. We tell 5 jokes as spoken and recorded by Ed. I have no idea what they are. If you laugh, you lose a point. If I laugh, I lose a point. You can react. You can say, oh. You can try and guess what the joke is.
Can I practice?
Yeah. And the good thing is we don't keep score. All right. Here we go. Joke number 1.
Did you know the definition of opaque is unclear?
Not bad. It's right up there. It's certainly grown-tastic. Number 2. Here we go.
My girlfriend told me to stop pretending to be a flamingo. That's when I had to put my foot down.
Usually the second joke always gets me.
Oh, you just lost a point.
I did lose a point. Well, there you go. I mean, that was a good one, I think. Here, number 3.
To the person that stole my antidepressants. I hope you're happy now.
We need those.
That's funny. That was a good one. I hope you're happy, though. Number 4.
What do you call a mummy night with a sore throat? I don't know. Surcough, I guess.
Sarcophagus. I got it. All right. Final joke. Finally, I know everybody's waiting with bated breath. They just want to get on with it. But it's a good feature. It's fun. It's light. Gets the energy going. Here we go.
I have a chicken-proof lawn. It's impeccable. Impeccable.
It's the clay here in Tennessee.
Yeah. No, you're not kidding about that. My goodness. Have you tried digging in it yet? You're pretty new to town, aren't you?
I've tried and given up.
Yeah.
You can't dig it. You hurt yourself. Yeah, I don't dig it.
I had a pretty good dad joke yesterday during BNI, didn't I? There was a guy looking for an electrician, and he was complaining that he couldn't find a good electrician. I said, you know what? I know this one guy, he's been an electrician and so into it since he's been a child. I mean, so much so that his parents didn't know what to do with him because he liked getting grounded. Right? I know, So there you go, the dad joke challenge. Me giving you a bonus joke just now. I actually came up with that one yesterday. I was so proud of myself.
I like the one that Ed did a couple of weeks ago with, I think it was with Tom Law. What's the difference between ignorance and apathy?
I don't know.
I don't know, and I don't care. I've told that. One. Got some yucks with that one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
As cheesy as they are, they get laughs.
Sometimes people think it's a real, you're asking them a real question, and then they can't believe it when they hear the answer.
So there you go. The Dad Joke Challenge brought to you by Mr. Ed Fox and Trade Bank of Nashville. Check it out. All right, getting on with things, Mr. Ryan. You wrote a book here. Let's see. It's Simple Happiness, 52 Easy Ways to Lighten Up. Interesting, coming from a New Yorker. Is this based on life experience or?
Well,
not that I'm saying New Yorkers need to lighten up, but I mean it's exactly the most civilized part of the country. But
everybody needs to lighten up a little bit. We all take things a little too seriously. A little less seriously here in Tennessee. Things are a little slower, not quite so hectic.
I don't know, man. Things are pretty dang fast as of late.
Well, the roads make you pay attention. That's for sure. With the gulch on the side and going over a hill, and can't tell what's coming on the other side.
You've got when we first moved here. Yeah, it was. Oh man, slow on down. We were okay with that. We were good. We came from Vegas, and Vegas had the same kind of dynamic when we moved out there in 2001 because we had come from Connecticut. So we were used to hustle and bustle and get out of my way and, giving people the bird and not making eye contact or saying hello or just being, curmudgeons. And then we get to Vegas and all of a sudden in the checkout line, the girl would start talking to you. Oh, okay. That doesn't happen in Connecticut.
No. You always wonder who's waiting, but here they don't care. They're happy just to wait for a minute because they know they'll have their opportunity to have a little chat as well.
They're almost like the mafia. Eventually, that's all right. Whatever you just did to me, you won't see it coming, but you'll get your comeuppance. So in New York, you moved down here when?
We moved. It's hard to keep track. It was right at the end of COVID. I think it was 2020.
Yeah.
We're here. It's going to be 2 years this May, whatever that is. It took a while. We kind of did it on the spur of the moment. I'm a speaker, professional speaker.
Yeah.
And during COVID, there were no audiences.
Right.
No meetings, no audiences.
At least in person, you could probably do it on Zoom or something. Right?
I was a little slow on the uptake with Zoom. Yeah, that was an issue. And my wife ran a bed and breakfast from our house. We had a big house on Long Island. Mm-hmm. Our kids were all out of the house. So she hooked up with the Engelman Theater, a professional theater in our village in Northport. And she catered to the actors in that regard. And there was then the theater shut down also. So neither of us had any income, and we had these high taxes. So we say, what do we do? Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
So my wife has a friend whose daughter lives just outside of Memphis, and she would come home from visiting her daughter and say what a nice place Tennessee was. The people are so friendly. So that was kind of resonated with my wife, and we came down in January of one of those years, I can't remember what, and started looking around. We got hooked up with a realtor, and we were so frustrated. It was right at the height of the market where you couldn't even see a house.
Yeah.
25, something goes on the market, and there's 25 people waiting to see it. We were discouraged. Then we came back down in May after we had sold our house and we knew what we had to deal with. And again, it was a similar situation. Couldn't see a resale. So we ended up building a house in Murfreesboro. And it's turned out to be really good, really nice.
Well, the one in, how long were you in the house in Long Island?
35 years.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Packing,
what a setup.
Packing was the worst.
But I mean, 35 years ago, so you bought early 90s.
Yeah.
And I was a teenager at that point, so I don't remember taxes and how they were. All I know is that Long Island taxes, you're looking at $15,000, $20,000 a year sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Depending on where you are.
We left, it was a $17,500.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's a mortgage payment.
It's ridiculous.
It is. Was it $1,500 a month, roughly?
Whatever you divide, it's about $1,500 a month.
To live on frickin' Long Island.
Yes.
And you have no idea where your taxes are going.
And then you had the oil bill, then you had the gas bill, then you had ridiculous electric bills.
Yeah.
So it became impossible.
And the taxes that go along with those.
Yeah.
It's freaking crazy.
Nothing goes
man.
down. Nothing goes down.
Did you guys have any desire to move prior to COVID, or were you just?
No. We were doing pretty well.
Yeah.
My speaking business was good. The book was good. My wife had nice, steady income from the B&B. So we were doing okay. Our kids had all graduated from schools. So, we just had the regular expenses of living on Long Island. Which
You didn't want to move to Florida?
No, it's too hot. Too hot. I was originally from Schenectady, where there's snow and ice. So I wasn't looking to go north. So Tennessee was a nice compromise where there's a little bit of a change of seasons.
You guys didn't get too much snow on Long Island, I guess.
Not
right?
this. Well, we would. It varied. Sometimes, like this year, there was almost no snow, and then I remember snow. There was 2 feet of snow, and you couldn't even get into the street. You couldn't even get into our driveway.
That is one thing I don't miss, man.
No.
Oh
I left my snow
snow.
blower with the person who bought the house, and I said, "Thank God, thank God."
I got a taste of Northeast winter about a year ago. We had to go do a project up in Parma, Ohio, and we got not only a taste of winter, but lake effect snow winter, which was every day was a blizzard. And it's like the snow never accumulated on the ground. It was just blizzard conditions, whiteout.
It would blow instead of sitting there. It would just keep blowing away.
Yeah. And we were doing a lighting job up there, and part of it had to be done outside on the poles in the parking lot. Yeah, we had to come back a month later. That was not happening because, it was too cold, too blustery. The snow was happening. It was just not happening.
No.
So we ended up making 2 trips up to Parma, Ohio, which gave me my fill of Northeast winter until I die.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever experience it again.
That's enough.
So what did you do throughout your life? How did you get started? What led to the speaking?
Well, I started off, I went to a Catholic school up in upstate New York, and I was inspired by the Christian brothers who taught me, and I entered this religious life. As I became an Irish Christian brother. Those brothers taught mostly. They had schools in New York City, mostly New York City. Power Memorial Academy, All Hallows Academy. So people from New York will know those names. Lou Alcindor, the basketball player. I can't even think of his name. What's the guy from the Lakers that scored all the points?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not a huge bad. I know Larry Bird, but he was on the Celtics.
Anyway,
I'm surprised I even know that.
Good for you. Well, I'm getting off the topic. So I joined these brothers, and I became a Christian brother, and I taught in a Catholic school for a couple of years up in Boston. I decided it wasn't for me, and I moved down to Long Island in pursuit of a woman, and I ended up staying, and I taught in a junior high school for 14 years, teaching French and Italian.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was a guidance counselor. And I had the opportunity to manage a tennis club out in the East End of Long Island, where it's the resort area, the Hamptons, they call it. And the high-end people from New York coming out and just playing tennis and going to the beach. I had the opportunity to manage a club, which was a great experience for me.
Yeah.
I ran the club. I wasn't the pro or anything, but my family would move out there in the summer, and we would have the best of both worlds, living in Northport, which is a beautiful little village on Long Island in the winter, and then summer out in the Hamptons. And it was great. And about 8 years of that, I said, I decided to cash in my chips, use my connections to leave teaching and go into business. I would sit around the faculty room and listen to teachers talk about, well, I got 17 years to go. I don't know what I'm, So anyway, I had more in me. So I used my connections and I went into business. I was a financial advisor. At the time, it was Shearson Lehman Brothers, and then it had several it morphed as it was purchased by other companies. And I did that for about 14 years. And it was the crash of '87 kind of hit me right in the face, saying this is not the way I want to make a living with so much uncertainty. So I made a lateral move to sell life insurance with Guardian Life Insurance.
Right.
But anyway, I've always been interested in personal development. I've always read a lot, gone to seminars and so on. And back in the year 2000, I had this opportunity to teach a class in the jail out in Yaphank, out in eastern Long Island. And I started teaching a class in personal development to men who were locked up for multiple DWI convictions. And then they had me teach the women who were locked up for the same thing. So every Monday, I would drive about 45 minutes from Northport out to Yaphank, go to this minimum security prison, and teach this class. And it was a turning point for me.
Yeah.
They really enjoyed it. They liked it. They shake my hand. They'd say thank you. It just filled me up to go there.
Right.
So about 3 years of that, I said, these guys like the program. Maybe people on the outside will like it. So I started writing to libraries on Long Island. I started giving talks in libraries about how to be happy. And one talk led to another. And along the way, I wrote that book, Simple Happiness. And I've traveled all over the country, giving talks on how to be happy, how to be at your best every day. And it's been a real kick. Just, who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew? Yeah, you say yes to an opportunity and doors open that you didn't even know existed.
And it's you never know what will come your way. I mean, that's
it.
Taking a risk.
I had some good advice early on about when I give a talk, I would always get feedback from my audience, and I developed an email list that I keep in touch with, and you ask for referrals, and somebody at the audience knows somebody who could use a speaker like that. Boom! Next thing, I'm out in Chicago giving a talk, or I'm down in Pennsylvania giving a talk, and I've traveled all over the country. Just it's been a real kick.
Nice. Well, it's something to really enjoy. I mean, what kind of being surrounded by curmudgeony teachers kind of made you think, well, how do I
Well, it was a combination of that and just rubbing shoulders with the millionaires out in the Hamptons kind of said, gee whiz, growing up in an Irish Catholic family, I kind of had a negative idea of rich people. Maybe maybe they were a little underhanded, but then dealing with these people at the tennis club, they're wonderful people. They're generous. They're giving, they're very generous. And it just changed my attitude. And I said, why not? Why not try this? So that's what I did. So I left teaching in my mid-30s and never looked back. So
a lot of the people at the tennis clubs were, you mean the patrons, the members, were very generous and were okay with, it was kind of like, they were able to, and they did.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that's kind of nice, refreshing.
It was. It opened my eyes.
Restoration of faith in humanity, right?
That's right. Yeah. A lot of good people.
Everybody hears me talk about New York on the podcast, and I have license because I lived there for, half my life. Well, actually less than half at this point. Oh dear. And I had once heard it described as, my first boss in radio put it this way. He says, the funny thing about the Northeast is that everybody up here thinks that they're so civilized, but it's probably some of the most uncivilized people I've ever met. And he was from North Carolina and, the South, right? Yeah. So, when he said that, I kind of scoffed and laughed, but, and kind of brushed it off. I'm like, well, I'm kind of doing exactly what he's talking about, disregarding what he said.
Yeah, and you find, stereotypes.
What are you talking about? Hey. We're nice people up here. Get the hell out of here.
You're talking to me? But stereotypes do have some basis in fact. Otherwise, we're
Southern stereotype.
That's right. Yeah.
I tell you, man, this is all we're just kind of slow pokes down here.
That's right. What all y'all gonna do later?
Yeah. What are y'all? Where are you going to? Where are you at? That's the one that drives me nuts. Is the at?
Yeah. I'll keep quiet because I might offend people with my northern stereotype of the South.
Well, how are people responding to you around here? Because we're getting a lot of people from California. Not too many New Yorkers, Northeasterners. They're preferring the Carolinas and maybe Virginia, Georgia, definitely Florida. Yeah. We're getting a lot of Midwesterners, Ohio people, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and of course California is moving here in droves.
Yeah.
Now, was that the political aspect of it? Was that a reason behind you?
Yeah, the politics of the state were definitely a factor. New York is as left as you could get. Well, maybe California is a little further left, but we were looking for something a little more conservative, and Tennessee filled that bill. And, And
It's changing, but
we came down here and the people were just so friendly, so friendly. I mean, there's friendly people in New York, but the stereotype is get out of my way. I'm in a hurry. Get lost. Here, I don't think I've opened a door more than 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
I've got gray hair,
Yeah.
and people hurry to open the door for me. Call me sir all the time, and it's nice. It really, and it's not fake. I mean, it happens so often.
Did you get a bless your heart yet?
Many.
That's not a compliment.
No. Well, and another thing that I pick up is, no, you're fine. You're fine. Like
we had a guy when I worked in radio here. That's what brought us out here was radio. I worked for Mix 92.9 and Jack FM up in Nashville from 2005 to 2013. And we had a guy named John Tumanello. He came and worked for us as a digital marketing guy. And he was from Staten Island. So he and I connected instantly. We were very good friends. And one of the girls that she was like the help for our controller. She was like the assistant accountant, I guess. And she would do the front desk every now and then when the front desk girl had to go to lunch. So when he started, she is as Southern comes. And when John first started, I went up to her and I said, so what do you think of the new guy? Really curious because she is like Southern and speaks with a rubber band in her mouth. I mean, it is. I mean, you couldn't get more Southern. So she goes, I'm not a fan of his. Okay, well, that's why I'm asking. I'm kind of curious. And she goes, he asks me how I'm doing, and then he never sticks around to hear how I'm doing. He just keeps on walking. I'm like, oh, well, that's like a salutation up there. It's like saying hello. They don't care how you're doing. It's just, hey, how you doing? And she was like, that's just not right. And I'm going, oh, that's how it is. It's either that or what are you looking at? That's the other salutation.
But that's a difference in culture.
Yeah.
We expect that from people.
Yeah. No time for any BS. Just get to the point. Yeah. And, no schmoozing.
Right. How you doing never requires an answer. You're not really looking for any answer. If you get an answer,
how you doing?
What did I ask that for?
What was the big culture shock for you coming down here? Anything that really stood out to you?
The food is very different. That requires some adaptation. Yeah, the food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Italian food and pizza.
Well, my wife is Italian, and it's so funny. I was just up in New York giving some talks, and I had dinner with some of the people that I was speaking with, and one of the women said, "Well, what are you going to bring back to your wife when you go back to Tennessee?" Because I was up in New York for 2.5 weeks. And I said, well, she'll just be happy to see me. That's all I have to bring back is me. And they said, no, you got to bring something back. Yeah. So talking to my wife, she said, well, you're up on Long Island. There's this supermarket chain called Uncle Giuseppe, which is just as it says, Uncle Giuseppe. So we couldn't get, and this is my wife's desire, provolone cheese. Provolone cheese. There are several, makers of it, but her favorite is Orecchio. Orecchio and you can't find it here. We go to Publix, we go to Kroger. So I went to Uncle Giuseppe and I bought 100 pounds of Orecchio provolone cheese to bring home to my wife. So she was very happy with it.
100 pounds?
100 pounds.
Oh my gosh. I guess you drove up there.
I did drive. Yes.
You're not getting that on a plane.
No.
So looking at the book, there's a lot of concepts just in the table of contents. And I noticed that you wrote it or published it back in 2014. So a lot of the concepts, I want to say you were kind of ahead of your time. You hear a lot of them now out in a lot of thought leader, influencer, social media content. You have, is someone living in your head rent free? That's become a nominal thought as of late. If somebody's really getting under your skin, the whole concept of somebody, is getting. Trump did that for a lot of people. Okay, he lived in their heads rent free, and all they did was talk about him, and they couldn't stand him, and he doesn't give a crap about you and what you think, we become what we think about.
The table of contents, that's what sells the book.
Yeah.
People open it up and they got to find something there that resonates.
Sure.
Just like you're doing.
Yeah, my eyes went right there. That's all the lumber you sent. Stress is a choice. a lot of these things that people don't realize, even, being happy is a choice. You can choose to be happy. It takes work. It's like working a muscle, and you got to put in the reps. Yeah. Are you painting the past blue? Is that for people who look back on their life and
I get a lot of stuff. I get a lot of stuff from music, and that's a line from James Taylor.
Okay,
painting the past blue.
Is it one of his hits?
Well, no, it's one of his. I don't even remember what song it's from, but I know it was one of his songs. And that's what people do. They just continue to ruminate about past, disappointments, failures. Why?
Yeah,
it's over.
There's no why beat your head against the wall.
Yeah.
Finding your mission in life. Oops, there I go again. A lot of intriguing thought starters here that make you want to read more into it. Okay, what do you mean by that? Is something about it that resonates with me, so I want to find out more about these kinds of things. And it's a lot of the stuff that's right up my alley because I think about these things as well. Mm-hmm. Are you a human doing or a human being? Mm-hmm. Being prepared is half the battle. Moods are not terminal. What's that about?
So often, when we're human beings and we have ups and downs in our emotional life, and sometimes we're in a bad mood. Something doesn't go right. You got a headache. You got a stiff neck, and you're not 100% up to par.
Yeah.
And then something hits you, and you're just in a bad mood. And so often, especially in close relationships with marriages and so on, the mood can really destroy things. I talk about when you're in a bad mood, you want to get to the bottom of things.
Right.
When normally you come home from work and who knows what the situation is. Maybe the laundry is sitting out on the couch. It's not folded and put away. Right. If you're in a good mood, so what? It doesn't bother me. But you're in a bad mood, all of a sudden, you start barking at your wife about, how come this is this way? And I use in the jail, I started doing this. You come into your wife and you go, you start shooting at her, you start yelling at her. And she will either do one of two things. She'll either, totally glass over and ignore you totally, which just exasperates you more, or she'll draw her guns and start shooting right back. Oh, yeah? And nothing is solved. Yeah. So if we understand that the mood is influencing my behavior, if I can just, it's like watching TV. Sometimes the cable will go out. There'll be interference and you can't get your channel. Yeah. So it's frustrating, but you understand you can't do anything about it. Then you kind of go about another activity and sooner or later the TV comes back on. Same thing with the mood. If you could catch yourself and, self-awareness is a big key about everything that I talk about. Mm-hmm. If you know you're in a bad mood, you're much better prepared to lighten up a little bit.
Or understanding what are the things and the nature of the things that set you off, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's like, it could be giant problems. Like last year, my business partner and I went through a tumultuous year, and it was an event that would have crippled me 10 years ago, right. Mentally. This time around, I was mentally prepared for it. I almost considered it like a rite of passage. I knew it was going to take a lot of time, effort, and money to kind of wade our way through it. We came out the other end just fine, and I always just knew that it was going to be like that. But the minute that this computer behind me starts acting up and won't, render video, or the video's not working or playing back, it's like those small nitpicky things, and I have to fix it and spend time fixing it. Drives me up a flipping wall. And I'm like, I need to get that under control. My goodness. And I guess that's what you're talking about, the self-awareness of understanding that. I know, I was going ape shit on freaking fixing a water filter at my house one time. My kids and my wife were in there listening to me going nuts because I couldn't get this thing loose. And I was like, what the crap? How is it? And guys, I'm sorry. You shouldn't have to hear that. And I just wanted to apologize. They were all laughing at me because they know me. And, I don't let their reactions bother me because I know myself. I know when it comes to this stuff, I'm completely unreasonable.
But we understand that. But again, we're human, and sometimes it does get the best of us. These are things we got to work on consciously.
Does it happen for you where it ebbs and flows, like seasons where like the frequency of the things that set you off increase and then they, ebb? For me, it is.
Yeah, well, I don't think so. Winter, summer, rain, sun. I'm kind of like, I've worked through that more than anything else. But it's these little things like you just described. Some stupid little technical thing will flip my lid.
Yeah.
And I said, what am I? I've dealt with these things a lot. Not that I'm good at dealing with them, but I've survived. So why am I letting myself be so miserable because I've hit the space bar on my computer and now I've lost. I can't. The keyboard doesn't work. That happened yesterday.
You start talking to it.
And now I got to find the settings, and I know nothing about the computer. But I finally, because I didn't go fly off the handle and smash the computer and start yelling. I allowed a little bit, but I said, "Look, I can figure this out," and I figured it out. So. Not easy all the time, but
it's whenever you pray for patience, it's when God gives you the times that test your patience. And it's always, I start talking to the computer. Of course, you're going to do this. I'm in a rush. I got things I got to do. Oh, look at that. Now I got to do everything I just did that just crashed again because I love doing everything twice. And I say these things, Jim, all the time.
Well,
and it's like, I need to figure that out.
Well, you hear yourself, and that gives you an opportunity. See, but we always have these choices.
Yeah.
That's what I talked about yesterday at BNI a little bit. That we always have the choice of how to respond. And if we listen to us, sometimes talking to yourself is good because you hear how silly you sound.
Yeah. I feel like a total utter moron.
But
when I do this.
But that's what we got to work on. One of the chapters.
Or is it good for just to let it out? And there's nobody around, nobody's here. Well, not that I know of, that hears me. It's just me. And I'm like, you feel badly because you're like, I got to figure out how to get this under control. But at the same time, I just feel better now.
It's okay.
I guess.
It's all okay, really. Unless you hurt somebody.
Right. Which I never would.
Blowing off some steam is okay.
Yeah. But I never got many fights when I was a kid either. I feel badly for the next person I get into a fight with because I feel like, 40 years of rage is going to come out on them. And it's like, I think us as men, we harbor a lot of feelings like that, rageful, anger, some of us do. My mom grew up in the Bronx. She had a rough upbringing, throughout the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s in the Bronx, and they had to go out to Rockaway Beach and everything. But her mom, her father died when she was young, so she had a twin brother. And the mother, my grandmother, would always look at her. I think they had a lot of similar personalities, and the brother was back then viewed as the favored child. And, we were always told from my mother just her upbringing and how different it was for us, and how tough she had it with her mother and so on and so forth. And it didn't dawn on me until my brother said, he says, Jim, you do realize that grandma was a single mom, a single parent in an age when that stuff didn't happen, right. or if it did, it's just that much tougher on women like that.
Oh yeah,
in the 40s and 50s. I can't imagine what that would have been like. So all of a sudden you have empathy for the grandmother and, even explaining it to my mom. Look, I haven't been a part of any interactions between you and grandma. I was too young. She died when I was too young. But I'm something else here that provides a little bit more levity and perspective is the fact that she was a single mom raising you guys. And it was a different time altogether,
Yep.
But you talk a lot about this book is very good because in this day and age, what we need is to know how to chill out and simple happiness. I think will do it for you. 52 easy ways, almost like it was designed to read on a daily basis. Correct?
It's modeled after Richard Carlson. He wrote the book Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff.
Right.
That was a real easy book for me to read. It had short chapters, little bite-sized things you could think about and consider. So I modeled it along that line. So you have an idea. I have people. I had a woman out in the Hamptons, got the book. She said, I lost my husband. And I took your book and I just decided I would read one chapter a week and just really dig into it. And she said it helped me get through the suffering in the mourning period that I lost my husband. It gave me things to think about as opposed to being sad.
Well, man, I'm going to throw this off here. What is the problem you're having, if any? Just acclimating here in Tennessee? Any sort of problem that you are having that's keeping you up at night, like what we talk about on the podcast?
You're asking me?
I'm asking you.
Well, I've developed, no, I don't really have any monumental problems.
Sure, it could be small, it could be big.
But one of the things that a lot of people have is sleep. Mm-hmm. And I'm at the age where I wake up in the middle of the night, I got to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And sometimes I'll come back to bed, sometimes I'll go right to sleep, and sometimes I won't. So instead of stressing about it, I've got this strategy. If I come back to bed, let's say it's 3 o'clock, and I lie there for a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes, I'll just get up and I'll go into our living room and I'll sit in the recliner, and sometimes I'll pray, sometimes I'll just, relax, and then 15 minutes, I'll go back to bed, and it works.
You see the reset.
Yeah. I think the real thing is I don't stress about it. See, the other thing is, okay, I understand. I don't have to get up and go to work at a job every day, so that would add stress to someone who couldn't sleep. But,
right.
But that's my attitude. I don't care if I sleep fine. If I don't sleep, that's okay too. I'll get up. I'll come back. My wife always makes this comparison. I'm the optimist and she's the pessimist.
Yeah.
She would wake up at 4:30 in the morning and say, "Oh no, I've only got 2.5 hours. I got to get up." Mm-hmm. And me, I wake up at 4:30 and say, "Oh, good, I can go back to sleep for 2.5 hours."
It really is how you look at it.
Absolutely, it's perspective. Yeah.
And if it's a have to versus get to. I tell people that I'm in my have to get to years these days.
Good.
Well, what do you mean have to? I'm like, well, I still have to work, but I get to do what I do.
Yes.
This is a get to. This is fun. This is my life right now. I mean, knock on wood, it's preferable, and even when I'm to quote unquote retirement years, I'm not going to retire.
I know.
I'm still going to keep going. My father retired and it did him in, 64 years old. Mm. So, I mean, that's, he just wanted to kind of hang out in Florida with my mom, and 3 years later, he was gone.
I use that at the end of one of my talks. I have this little thing. One word can change everything. Yeah. And we talk about I have to do the laundry. I have to do the shopping. I have to do the dishes. That have to implies a chore. Mm-hmm. And if we turn that thing around and say, I get to, all of a sudden it turns into a blessing.
Yeah.
I get to do the shopping. Yeah. I have a store that stocks the things that please me. I have the wherewithal to purchase what I like. And it just changes everything.
It really does.
It does.
And it's, again, guys, listening to this, look up the book. It's a digestible read. You can do what your fan did and read a chapter a week and get through it in a year, but it'll probably take you a week to get through it. But there's a lot of good chunks in here on what we need in this day and age. You hear me talk about the pendulum, and we're at the zenith of a we cycle right now. Year 2023 is going to look like a lot like 1943. It's an uncertain time. It happens every 80 years, so don't lose faith and hope that this time is an ally at this point. What we're going through, as tumultuous as it seems, will pass. Okay, time is truly an ally. A lot of people think, well, it's the end times, and whether that is the case, all I know is that humanity gets at each other's throats every 80 years on a cultural basis, like a pendulum, and it's like clockwork, dude. It's a great book to read.
This happened back in the 60s.
Yeah.
What a tumultuous time that was. People thought that was the end of time.
Cultural attitudes were flipped, though, back then.
Yes.
Because we were going up, the 60s emerged us into the tipping point, into the upswing of a me. So we're complete opposite of where you got to read that book. It's basically talks about how we go through these cultural shifts, right? This is the most tumultuous of the cycle. The we cycle. Mm-hmm. So every 80 years we go through it. So 80 years ago was 1943. We had a major world war. 80 years prior to that, we had the Civil War. 80 years prior to that, we had the Revolutionary War, at least in the recent history. So that's the whole notion of this book. And it's amazing how accurate. It was written in 2011, 2012. Mm-hmm. And I talked about all this stuff kind of unfolding.
Yeah.
Same thing with books like Generations and The Fourth Turning. I don't know if you ever heard of those, but they were kind of the precursor of that concept. Roy Williams and the Wizard Academy guys took it to the next level with pendulum. They said, well, it's not really seasons of life. It's more just a pendulum. Systolic and diastolic, like the tides coming in. It's culture has to move, right? So we're going through right now what is known as I'm okay, you're not okay. And if you remember in the 60s, there was a book,
I'm okay, you're okay.
I'm okay, you're okay.
Yeah.
And we're actually getting back into that right now. So that will be the next cultural shift. We'll go back into I'm okay, you're okay. And then it'll be I'm not okay, you're okay. And that will be the upswing into the 80s, or what was we experienced into the 80s. So if you remember, the 60s weren't really the 60s until 1963, right? What we remember as the 60s, 63 to 69. 60 to 62 was just the leftover 50s.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah. Times are good.
It's crazy, though. It's like, when they talk about all the nuances of the me upswing, I mean, me is all about just self-improvement. That's where you had guru worship came out of that. They believe that a camel was a racehorse designed by a committee. So, one mind is better than many kind of attitude. And then it culminated in 1983. So it makes total perfect sense, right? It was the me generation because of the boomers.
Yeah.
But a great book. I totally recommend it. You should look into it.
What's the name of it again?
Pendulum, How Past Generations Shape Our Future.
Okay.
And I've got it right over there. I'll show it to you at the end. But how do they get the book and find and follow you? And are you doing anything social media-wise to get your message out?
Well, the book is on Amazon. You could buy it on Amazon. You can buy it as a softcover book. You could buy it as the electronic book on Kindle. You can
Ebook, audiobook?
It also is an audio book.
Okay.
I don't know this technology. I always have people help me with all these things.
Right.
And I have to do more with social media.
Right.
It's not my thing. I'm an old-fashioned, person that I start, but it's hard. It's not in me. It doesn't excite me to do these social media stuff like LinkedIn. I know I should do more LinkedIn. I've done Facebook Live. That I like that because it's a camera and I talk, and then I give a message and I can boost it and I can send people to my website to get my emails.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just having my website redone by Conversion First Marketing.
Yeah, Tyler,
yes. So that's going to be going live, I think, I'm not sure when this is going to be on, but at the end of April, it's going to go live. So by now, it's probably live. And you could go to jimryantalks.com, jimryantalks.com. And you can sign, and there's going to be some stuff there that's of interest. It's going to be like a business card for people who are thinking of hiring me. Could look there and get some information about me. On Wednesdays, Jim, I send out what I call an aha moment, a little uplifting thought, something positive to help you get through the week. They're free. You can go to my website, put your email in, and you'll hear from me every Wednesday.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, so basically you're doing that already.
I'm doing that already.
Right.
Yeah, I'm up to number 751.
Put it out on social. Put it on Instagram. Make little caricatures, memes, and do a little breakdown of the thought on a video, and then put it out.
It's a great idea, but it's not me. For some reason, it's not me.
But
if somebody else could do it. But
are you wanting for more bookings and all that stuff?
I'm looking. That's my bread and butter. Is speaking, giving talks. Yes.
How often are you speaking a month?
Not often enough.
Right.
Once or twice a month.
So you'd like to be 5, 6, 7, 8 times a month.
Yeah.
Right. That's the sweet spot.
Well, that's a little. It depends on where I'm going.
Right.
I'm not looking to travel 5 different places. But I mean, See, the thing is, the message is so good that people need to hear it.
Yeah.
Even if I don't get paid, I say
they
that.
They do need to hear it.
They do need to hear it. It's exciting to get the feedback from people who hear me talk. They walk out and say, "What am I so miserable for? I got so much to be grateful for."
If anything, do you follow anybody on social media?
Mike Dooley.
Okay.
He's a fellow from. He was. From The Secret, Jack Canfield, I follow those
Chicken
guys.
Soup.
Yep. Jack Canfield is just a real down-to-earth guy who came from little. He
lives around here, I think.
I think he lives in California.
Does he?
Yeah, near
I think
Santa Barbara. I think
might have had a place in Vegas too.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got places out. Many places. His books have sold millions.
Yeah.
He's one of my heroes.
But I mean, there's so many guys out there doing inspirational, thought leader content.
Yeah.
Why not? You can do the same thing. And it's, if you're already getting and putting an email together, literally you can be like, hey, the guy I was talking to you about before, Roy Williams, who wrote that book Pendulum with another gentleman, Michael Drew. He started an email long ago, back in the 90s, and he calls it the Monday Morning Memo. And it's more business, advertising, marketing concepts, real cerebral type concepts. But he's put it out like clockwork for the past 20 plus years. And he's got just a massive following from it, but he's got a podcast component on it. So I don't know. There's something that, it all starts with a podcast, my friend. So if you do a podcast every week on your thought of the email that you put out, make an audio version of it. You know what I mean? And then throw it out there and make it clickable and all that fun stuff. There's something there, pal. I'm telling you. Doesn't have to be video. It can be just audio, but I always suggest video. Yeah. So maybe we need to talk about that.
Yes, we do.
Because, this is something the world needs to see.
Absolutely.
Simple stuff. Like I said, simple happiness. Here's the way to just be happier about life.
Yep.
Why not, you're almost robbing people by not doing it.
I am. I am.
Shame on you.
Yeah, shame on me. Yes, you're right.
How's that for Catholic guilt?
Well, but I do these retreats. I do these retreats in churches, and I use this little thing like, when we pass away, God is going to ask us, what did you do with the gifts I gave you? With the talent that I gave you, what did you do with it? So I ask myself that question, but again, I get overwhelmed with the technology. It's just hard for me.
There's plenty of people that can help you out there.
I know.
Just takes cash.
Yes.
The only thing about that I would say is there's so many people out there that it was a line of thought you just had. Dang it, I lost it. What were you saying? Remind me. Give me a little thought.
When we go to heaven, God is going to ask us.
Somebody had mentioned that, their definition of hell is God showing you what you could have been. I'm like, oh my. Oof.
That's pretty powerful.
This is how much potential you had. Here's how much you realized.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's one of my underlying themes is get off your butt and do it.
Yeah.
Well,
there you go. Get off your butt and do it.
That's
Jim.
what I got to. I'm telling you, I'm a victim of my own
cobbler's shoes, man.
Yeah. I wrote the book, and it's been everybody who reads it loves it.
Yeah.
And it's almost I'm afraid to write another one because it won't be as good.
Well, no, you can always. There's so many different concepts in here. You can make a whole other book about.
I know.
Why do you need teachers? Everybody needs teachers. Everybody needs mentors and things of that nature. Are we really? These are so many things in here. There's a volume of books you could make off of these things. I mean, just even with podcasts, man. I mean, there's so many things you could talk about.
Yep.
So many things.
No question. No question.
Get in front of the right people and making sure it's put out there. And I found recently when I hired somebody to help me with my posting, I'm like, I'll get you the content. What's bogging me down is getting it posted on all the different platforms and doing it right. And I said, I'm looking into these aggregator, social media sharing sites like Hootsuite. And she goes, don't do that because the algorithms look at those like they're bots and it just goes against you. Okay. So we talked about a price. She's handling it for me now. And it's like, I know where my weaknesses are. And sometimes it's tough to see the label on the outside of my bottle, which is my specialty for other people. It's like, can see things and say, what you should do.
I know.
I know.
I've always had somebody doing stuff for me.
Yeah.
I always have. And, somehow that just kind of, it runs its course. And now I got to find somebody else to hold my hand with the technology and with all this other stuff.
And all the consistency of it.
That's it. Because I could stand up and talk and wow people. I mean, I open my talks, I play the guitar, I sing, and that just knocks people out too. I'm not bad. And that's another thing that separates me from others.
My pal, Rich Redmond, who plays for Jason Aldean, he's got his speech called Crash, the Crash Course to Success. And CRASH is an acronym of commitment, relationships, attitude, skill, and hunger. And he says, look, if you want to be a success in life, just think about those tenets and try and mold your life around those tenets. And a lot of people resonate with the attitude portion of it. But it makes perfect sense when you think about it, you know, and he plays the drums at his events and stuff, and he's got plays to music and all the different songs he's been on and artists he's recorded for. So interesting dynamic to his events. So.
Yeah, I mean, my guitar playing peaked about 30 years ago, but you know, I play to sing. That's all.
Yeah, that's all right. It's you know, you just need to do some power chords, right?
Yeah.
No Iron Maiden, Metallica.
No.
So there you go, JimRyanTalks.com. All the information I'll put in the body, the podcast description, so to speak. You'll be able to find everything down there. Anything else, Mr. Ryan?
Well, if you need a speaker, I'm your guy.
Yeah. So if you need a speaker that is going to talk about just simple ways to start, you know, every day finding the joy.
I've got a couple of signature talks. One of them is 8 characteristics of happy people. What are happy people like? Because a lot of people, they want to be happy, but they don't know, you know, what goes on. And I tell them that happy people have the intention to be happy. Happy people are accountable for their own happiness. They know what makes them happy, and they find time to do it. They follow their bliss, some people. Happy people are able to recast mournful events. They understand they've got options in their life. They show appreciation, and they're giving.
Right.
And that just opens people's minds. And the other one is a little more in your face. It's managing thought, the key to success in business and in life. And the subtitle will change depending on the audience. But, you know, people think their thoughts are their life.
Yeah.
But thoughts are just thoughts.
Yeah.
And if we just learn to let go of those negative thoughts, the limiting thoughts, and hang on to the good ones, our life gets better. And it's just powerful stuff.
Focus on the thoughts that like got us to the moon, you know? Everybody, you don't realize that all that stuff started with a thought.
Absolutely.
The cars we drive in, somebody thought about it once upon a time.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is, you know, bombarded by thoughts, and he takes action on them. It's crazy. The power of thought, good or bad.
But so much of even a regular daily life, the studies show that 50% of our happiness is genetic. You know, we have tendencies that we're born with. And 10% they say is our circumstance. Did I grow up in a happy family or was it dysfunctional? Did I go to a good school or not? And people think that that's who I am because of those two things, my heredity and my environment. But 40% of our happiness is what I do with what I've got.
Yeah.
So nobody is really stuck. So many people think they're stuck. What do you want? You know, I was the oldest of 6 kids. I had to do everything. I never had a chance to develop any interest.
Yeah.
And we tell ourselves these stories. Our self-talk is so critical.
You know what I call that?
What do you call that?
When people talk like that, and I'm guilty of it as well.
Sure.
Is don't be a little bitch. And that's kind of what it is.
Yeah,
you know, I'm holding up a wristband. It's from Grant Cardone. And that's one of his sayings is don't be a little bitch, because it's like when you're harping on that. And I've been guilty of it as of late. I've been talking a lot about living in my brother's shadow. And it's like, I'm not trying to say that my life was awful because of it. It was a reality. I had to live in his shadow. Here's my story. Because I lived in his shadow, because expectations of me were not in line with who I was, college, things of that nature, that haunted me for about a decade and a half, even into my chosen profession that I was good at in radio. It still haunted me because I never had the college degree for validation.
Yeah.
That everybody said, if you don't get it, you're going to be a loser. You're going to fail. That's what was told to me over and over and over again.
That's self-talk.
Yeah.
Self-talk. And when I give a talk, often there'll be a stage and I'll have 3 chairs set on the stage and I'll just tell my story. One is a story of woe. One is a story of, gee, I've overcome a lot. And the third one, when I start to get out and volunteer and give of myself without getting paid, I can't believe how good my life is.
Yeah.
Now, why not? Why not everybody say, I can't believe how good my life is? That should be the goal of everybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, Elon Musk. It could be, some guy who goes to work in a factory every day.
Yeah. What's happiness?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But as long as I can't believe how good my life is. It's that self-talk, that validation that we give ourselves.
See, I guess I'm in the second chair. It's, hey, look at what I've overcome.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit of the third chair. Just, I have no complaints about my life. I'm knocking on wood right now.
Right.
But, it is what you make of it. And a lot of it is, I just had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day about a mutual friend of ours who has always been just brimming with potential and talent, but always gets in their own way.
Sure.
And it's frustrating for us because we see the potential and like, dude, just get out of it. Let us help you. And just, do the things you're good at and get out of the way for the things you're not so good at. And it's going to go down as, you could have been, but you'd never let somebody else help you to do it.
With me, that going to that jail back in 2000 turned my life around, and I moved down here, and I continue to volunteer. I teach a class in personal development, the same course I taught at the jail, in this Oak Cottage for women. It's a halfway house for women who have just been released from prison.
Yeah,
it's just. Why not? If I could sit home and do nothing, but I'm called to do this. Yeah.
Well, it gives you, it's your purpose and it gives you fulfillment.
That's right.
And that's what a lot of people miss out on.
That's right.
My kids, I say this every podcast episode. I don't care if you go to college, kids. I don't. I really don't. You need to find out who you are. You need to be self-aware.
Yeah.
That's what I want for you. Throughout your 20s, I want to tell you right now, I told my 11-year-old this. It's okay to fail. All right? You lost a volleyball game. Your team's having a little bit of trouble getting traction. It's okay. You stop being so hard on yourself. Well, we're not winning. I get it. You get used to it. That's going to happen quite a bit.
Yeah.
But that's life. It doesn't mean
it doesn't define you.
It doesn't mean you're a failure.
No.
You are going to fail.
Yeah.
Kids, you're going to fall on your face. You're going to have to eat dirt. It's going to happen. Understand. I think they say that the people's lives between 20 and 40 are some of the most miserable parts of their lives, and for a lot of people. And when you break it down as to why, is because they're trying to live up to their own expectations, their parents' expectations, the world's expectations. They're trying to, get the foundation poured and solidified, and not build a house on the sand and build a house on the rock. It's maddening. But if you understand, if somebody's there to walk alongside them and tell them, look, it's okay that you have to go through this. Enjoy the ride.
And there's such stress, even in junior high school, about all of this expectation of college and achievement and being the best. Relax.
Yeah.
Relax.
You'll figure it out.
You're going to do fine.
Yeah. And that's what my parents always told me, that you're just going to do fine. You just got to find yourself. But, I think my parents always kind of took pride in the fact that my brother did it the, quote, right way and the path, which I don't hold that against him. That was the generational thinking.
Yes.
I want you guys to be successful. And to me, in my understanding, it takes a college education to do that. We never had that. It's different time for us. Well, is it? The time was kind of the same. I'm still a success. I don't have a college degree. I don't want one. I don't feel like I need one. I educate myself every single day. I'm always learning something new. Yeah. I'm never beyond, closing my mind. When I'm green, I grow. When I'm ripe, I rot. And that's the mentality that I keep, is because I learned that in the car. Your jail was my car business. Mm-hmm. So when I was in the car business, that's when my life started. It was, my eyes were open.
Yeah.
And then the past 7-8 years, getting back to the buddy we were talking about, my pal was really just harping down on our friend who we see so much potential in. And I said, just so we have a little perspective here, he's been in an industry that has done nothing but beat him down, okay, his whole life. Setbacks, challenges, adversity, the industry itself is just on the decline. I said, confidence comes from the memory of success. When you're not very successful in what you do, your confidence level suffers. And that's kind of him right now,
Jack Canfield, I listened to a lot of his stuff, and he says, sit down one day and just write down every success you've ever had. Mm-hmm. Start from kindergarten or elementary school, and write all big successes, little successes. Try to get to 100, and look at it once in a while, because we got to keep building ourselves up, because the world is not building us up so often. So often it's trying to tell us what we can't do. But this is what I've done. This is what I can do.
You ever watch Rocky Balboa, the movie?
Yes.
Yeah, but not like the first 4. or 5. It was a movie called literally Rocky Balboa.
Oh, okay.
And it's an older Rocky with his son, Talia Shire, Adrian. She's the character died. So it's just him in his retirement years, and he's got another fighter that's coming up through the ranks, and he's a young kid, and they do this, modeling of Rocky Balboa versus this kid, and back in Rocky's heyday, he would have beat the kid. So that's what the movie's about. His son gets very upset with him, saying it's embarrassing. Okay, you reliving your glory years. You're in your 50s. You shouldn't be doing this. And one of the best speeches that Sly Stallone ever penned and wound up in this movie. I actually even used it on my daughter last weekend. I said, Hallie, there's going to be a lot of things in life that try and keep you down and hit you. Life will be the biggest one. It will hold you down if you let it. But it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. All right. That's life. All right. It will keep you down if you let it. The world will keep you down if you let it. It's not about how hard you can hit. How hard can you take the blow and keep moving forward? And she was just like, where did this come from? But I want to try and instill that in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great stuff, man. Yeah. So there you go. Go to JimRyanTalks.com. We'll wrap up there. And if you need just a good book and a good speaker to come out to just lift people up, you can be in a multitude of different events that have a multitude of speakers, I would imagine, too, right? Yeah.
Sure.
There's a lot of that stuff going around Nashville. Check them out, JimRyanTalks.com. And, of course, whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Please share out the episodes. If you're enjoying them, tell the world about it. Leave a review, 5-star preferable. If you can't leave a 5-star, let me know why, and I'll work on it, honestly. Reach out to us, whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Jim, thanks for coming out here, sir. What a great conversation.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jim.